Right now, the best link I have to finding Olivia is Melanie Matthews, which is convenient because she called and said she'd like to meet.
Hi, I'm Melanie.
Hi, Melanie.
I'm an alcoholic. I haven't been to a meeting in a long time, and I mean a long time. I was 23 years sober, but as of 2 weeks ago, I started drinking like a fish. That all ended last night. Because last night, I brought a total stranger into my house, and that's something I haven't done since I was in my 20s. But because I was fucked up, I brought a stranger into my home. I think the reason we get fucked up is simple.
They're lonely.
We're lonely. We're afraid. And here we live in a world with millions of people, all with the capacity to love and be loved, and somehow we just can't get our shit together, and I think it's because we're afraid. We've been hurt in the past, and we don't want to be hurt again, so we get fucked up, make bad choices, and settle for any kind of connection we can find. But you know what happened last night? The guy didn't hurt me, he didn't steal from me, he didn't even fuck me. Even though at the time I told him I wanted him to. No, you know what he did? He took care of me. He tucked me in, and then he left.
I was technically working. Still am.
And this morning when I woke up, I was struck by the possibility that this man might have been sent to me by my higher power. Or he's just a decent guy. Or he's gay. But you know, it doesn't matter what he was or is. What matters is how he made me feel, and he made me feel like I deserve a second chance. So, thanks.
John Lilly once put it this way: there are no limits at all to the human mind whatsoever, except those we impose on ourselves because of our beliefs. And those limits are also beliefs to be transcended. And that's a view that suggests that the possibilities of human transformation are virtually infinite. And we have no way of knowing the outer horizon of what it means to be human.
And really, to understand all this, everything, you have to go very, very deep into a study of history, consciousness, neurophysiology, everything. You have to be the supreme eclectic type of leaning, and you really have to be wanting to know who you are and what everything's about.
And the thing that you'll find when you go to sacred sites, if you're very humble about it, is that you are on a personal journey, and the sacred site will respond to you in a way that is appropriate only to you. The information is always what you are searching for. And it's the intent you give that energy that defines whether it is used for right action or not. And it is inside these sacred spaces that you will be reminded that you are a god, that you are a bright star.
So what you're trying to do is move through the course without ricocheting off walls or creating karma. You're trying to slide through things smoothly. How do you do that? It's called flowing. there's a technique that you can do that will allow you to touch some part of your inner being that has more knowledge than your conscious state does.
Of course, you know, we all come up with our own interpretation based on our core belief system. I mean, even Alexander in his book, you know, what you read is a core Christianized version of his experiences. Had he been a Muslim, it might have been slightly different. Had he been Jewish, it might be slightly different again. And that's why it's so important not to get hung up on our dogma associated with a belief system that has originated from the construct, but to try and keep a totally open mind. But there's another culture that talks about this period without a specific date, and that's the Cuero of Peru. And in 2009, I had this overwhelming urge to go visit the Cuero. Now, I'd read a lot of the works of a guy called Alberto Villoldo. Has anybody heard of Alberto Villoldo? Okay. I'd read a lot of his stuff, and my former partner had done a number of his Four Winds workshop programs, but they'd never really appealed to me. And I read Alberto's website and saw that he was running a trip to Peru in June of 2010. So I thought, well, I'm going to give a call and just see if I can go along. But on the website it said, you know, priority is given to people who are following the Four Winds program, which I certainly wasn't, but it didn't say you couldn't go if you weren't following the Four Winds program. So I called Alberto's office. And this guy answered the phone, and I said, I'm just calling to see if I can join Alberto's tour to Peru next June. And the guy said, well, yeah, that's a possibility. Let me take a few details. First of all, he said, are you following the Four Winds program? And I said, well, no, I'm not, but you know, I did see on the website that it did say priority would be given, but it didn't say that I couldn't go. He said, yeah, that's okay, that's fine. He said, okay, a few personal details. Can I take your name? And I said, yeah, my name's Ian Crane. And there was a silence at the other end of the phone, and he said, this guy said, would that be Ian R. Crane? And I said, yes. And he said, well, 48 hours ago, I had never heard of you. He said, but yesterday, somebody sent me a link to a presentation that you gave on Codex Alimentarius. And he said, and I've watched the whole presentation. And he said, so, synchronistically, he said, how can I refuse? So I said, so who am I talking to? He said, oh, my name's Alberto Villoldo. So once we'd finished blowing smoke up each other's butts for the next 10 minutes, he said, yeah. He said, Ian, you're more than welcome. He said, you know, he said, I don't know really very much about you other than, you know, what I saw in the Codex presentation. But you know, he said, yeah, I like what I saw, and you can come along. He said, but you've got to remember that this is really primarily for people following the Four Winds programs, and they all want to spend time with the Cuero, and you know, you're just really going to have to probably sort of meld into the background and see how it unfolds. I said, yeah, absolutely, understand. So roll the clocks forward to June of 2010. I arrive in Cuzco, and on my first night in Cuzco, I fall down the stairs and break my ankle. There was the altitude sickness. I'd stopped drinking a few years ago, so I haven't. I didn't, by the way, choose to stop drinking alcohol. I had a bad cold in November of 2008, and when the cold cleared, I just completely lost all desire or taste for alcohol, and I never fought it. So I fell down the stairs, and I realised that I'd broken the ankle because it was at a rather strange angle under my leg. But I was so tired, and I was so exhausted and so jet-lagged that I couldn't be bothered to get up, so I just called down to reception and got them to bring up a bag of ice and stuck the ice under my ankle. The following morning, of course, I went to the hospital, where the doctor x-rayed me and then put the plaster cast on me. So I thought, oh, this is great, isn't it? This is really fucking great. I've spent all this money, I've come all this way, and the first day here I've got a broken ankle. That's the left brain talking, of course. And, you know, you can almost sense the right brain going, see how it goes, see how it goes. And anyway, so I get in the cab to go back to the hotel, and the cab driver says, so you need some crutches? And I said, yeah, the doctor gave me an address where I can get some crutches tomorrow morning. He said, no, no, no. He said, my sister has some crutches. She doesn't need any more because she broke her leg. So my contribution to the Peruvian economy was to buy this guy's sister's crutches. Probably for about 3 times what I'd have paid for them in a shop. Anyway, so now I have my crutches. So the next day we're going up to Pisac, which is going to be our base for the next couple of weeks up in the mountains. And the schedule was that we were going to go out on trips, the buses were going to take us up into the mountains, and then we were going to go for these hikes up to these sacred areas, and the Cuero were going to perform their ceremony. But I wasn't going there, was I? So I just got on a random bus and decided that I was just going to go as far as the bus went, and then I just sort of find a nice quiet spot and sit down and chill. And so everybody disappears off into the mountains, and I'm sort of, you know. And I found a nice rock to sit on, and it was beautiful. And it's beautiful, clear blue sky, no chemtrails. Beautiful, clear blue sky. And of course, you know, you sit there for a while, and then the left brain chatter kicks in, doesn't it? Yeah. So, great, isn't it? Great. You come all this way, you spend all this money, and what do you do? You're sitting like a bloody gnome on a rock. You might as well bugger off and go home. And the right brain's going, whoa, 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 just relax, just chill, just see how it unfolds. So you're trying to get back into that place of sort of centered stillness and just sort of say, well, it is what it is, and, you know, I might as well enjoy it. So I'd been sitting there for about an hour and a half, and I saw one of these guys start walking down the mountain. And I'm following the path, and I realized that the path comes right down in front of me. So I thought, oh, this is interesting. And sure enough, when the guy gets to me, he comes and stops and just sits in front of me. And, you know, sat and just smiled, okay, and then just sat down. I thought, this is good. Except that I couldn't speak Cuero. If he did speak Spanish, I didn't understand it. Not that my Spanish is that great. He certainly didn't speak English. But we sat there, probably for about, I don't know, 45 minutes or so. And then a second member of the Cuero came down the mountain and came and joined him. And now the two of them are chattering away. And I discovered that they did know one word in English. Idiot. And they seemed to sort of say it every time they happened to look down at my ankle. But I still couldn't communicate with them, other than like you do, you know, with just sort of, you know. Anyway, a little while later, a third member of the Cuero came down. Now, this was the youngest member of the group working with Alberto. Her name was Velma. Very, very interesting lady. She was 38 years of age. She'd been struck by lightning 3 times and had the scars to prove it. And stated that every time she was struck by lightning, then it basically took her to a whole new level of consciousness. Don't try that one at home either. But she spoke perfect English, so now I had my translator. So we started chatting away, and I had these guys' undivided attention for the next 4 hours or so. And then we saw the other people coming down the mountain later on, and so we broke up. And then Velma came running up to me as I'm sort of hobbling along, and she said, Ian, tomorrow, she said, we will find you. And I said, but I don't know which coach I'm going to be on. She said, we will find you. Well, this went on for like 4 days, and I had these guys' undivided attention. I'd literally take a random coach, find a spot to sit, and then these guys would come find me after an hour, hour and a half or so. Well, I think it was the 5th day, I'm going back to my coach, and I got a tap on the shoulder, and it's from Alberto Velodo. And he said, Ian, he said, when we get back to the hotel, can I have a word? Well, I could tell he wasn't best pleased. I said, yeah, sure. So I got back to the hotel, and Alberto was sitting in the bar, and I said, hey, you wanted a word, Alberto? He said, yeah. He said, Ian, how much are you paying these guys? Paying? I said, I'm not paying them. He said, right, I am. He said, I'm paying these guys to be up in the mountains conducting their ceremonies. Because what they were doing was, they live a very simplistic life. They work on the basis that Pachamama provides everything that they need. And every time they find themselves in abundance, then they go into ceremony, which is to build these beautiful mandalas and then package them and then burn them. And this, of course, was lost to the world, because these guys were totally lost to the world for 400 years. Because they'd been chased up into the high Andes by the conquistadors. And everybody believed that the conquistadors had murdered them. But they were living up in the high Andes at 16,500 feet. And they came out of the high Andes for the first time in the 1960s, when Alberto was a bag carrier for one of his professors at university. And that was when Alberto decided to change his course to anthropology rather than botany. And he became the anthropologist, and he's dedicated his entire life to working with the Cuero. And Alberto said, he said, look, you know, Ian, he said, everybody wants some time with these guys. And I said, Alberto, look, I'm just going up on a random coach. I said, I'm not even making a conscious decision about which coach I go on. I'm just going on a random coach, and I'm just going up to a location, and these guys are finding me. And he sort of half smiled. And he said, okay. He said, well, we'll see what happens. And the following day, these guys came and joined me again, and I told them about the story with Alberto, and they just burst out laughing. And I said, so what's so funny? I said, I just got my butt kicked by Alberto, and you guys think it's funny? And Velma said, yeah, because Alberto knows better than anybody that everybody's where they're supposed to be. And Alberto will just deal with it. So I had an amazing time with these guys, and of course I would never have had this opportunity had I not broken my ankle. It was a clean break. There was no problems with it. And I got back to the UK, went straight to hospital. When I got back to the UK, they put a new cast on it, and you know, within the usual 6 weeks I was fine. But the ankle break was the catalyst to be able to spend the time with these people.
Escaped, or was set loose. He hates and loves the ring, as he hates and loves himself. He will never be rid of his need for it.
It's a pity Bilbo didn't kill him when he had the chance.
Pity? It was pity that stayed Bilbo's hand. Many that live deserve death. Some that die deserve life. Can you give it to them, Frodo? Do not be too eager to deal out death and judgment. Even the very wise cannot see all ends. My heart tells me that Gollum has some part to play yet, for good or ill, before this is over. The pity of Bilbo may rule the fate of men.
I wish the ring had never come to me. I wish none of this had happened.
So do all who live to see such times, but that is not for them to decide. All we have to decide is what to do with the time that is given to us. There are other forces at work in this world, Frodo, besides the will of evil. Bilbo was meant to find the ring, in which case you also were meant to have it. And that is an encouraging thought. It's that way.
He's remembered.
No, but the air doesn't smell so foul down here. If he died in Enoch, Always follow your nose.
Hey guys, welcome. Andre Hodge, Infinite Potential Healing, Servant of Truth with you once more. Thank you for being here and thank you for allowing me to be a part of your journey as always. I hope this finds you well. I'm coming to you just after the solstice on my end. So I hope this June 2024 the solstice was pretty epic for you. For me it was always interesting, but if you watched my video I released last week, the way I operate is every moment is like a solstice and stuff. So I guess one of the variables of me is I tend to go through things before other people and stuff. And if you've watched Galactic Special Forces Part 32 and 33, if I have enough time I might do a bit of a review of them at the end of the mechanics of sort of what I worked out, alright? But relative to, say, getting the Pure Source Spiritual Assembly for Multiverse Resolution mechanics and employing them over the last few months and getting my Sovereignty Declaration out, and then having the byproduct of some victories relative to Galactic Special Forces Part 33 where I busted what was going on and stuff. I hope this really finds you well and they've all flowed on to you in your reality of, say, some of the big mechanics of what we've worked out being cleared, and going back to Galactic Special Forces Part 31 where we worked out a lot of the human life force was being drained and fed off-world, and taking that sort of apart to be able to have humanity have more life force and stuff. And it doesn't necessarily mean it's better, because what it means is the hidden stuff becomes in our face potentially, and a lot of humanity have a lot to deal with and stuff and get over their issues and stuff like that. But what I'm just getting to about me as a metaphor is say if things are going to play out and I'm a part of them, and it's not all the things external to me, it's all the little things as well of mastering myself and that, and employing my mechanics that I sort of worked out and impart and share and stuff. And so for myself in the last few months, getting a lot of the victories, what it meant for me is, say if you're really armed up and stressed out, not that I am, but I just appreciate the body mechanics of our partnership with it. Say if you're hunkering down and guarding yourself and all that, you might be armed up and stressed and all those sort of things. Say if you get relief and resolution, the body can relax and disarm, and so a lot of that has gone on with me for the last few months, alright? And then what happens is, say if your frequency shifts and you get an upgrade, and I know I got, say, a broadband to pure source sort of thing, the body sort of has to accommodate and acclimatize to it, right? So the body, if you get those sort of frequency energetic throughput upgrades, then the physical body has to go through a process to recalibrate to it and stuff. And what's gone on for me the last few months is I've been eating like a horse, and I've actually recalibrated to sort of a new subtle food intake. I've had a pretty stable sort of nutritional regime for a long time, but it's been interesting these last few months. And also on that, I've changed my fitness regime and all those sort of things. Not reinvented the wheel, but just subtly adapting to the new change and things like that. So what's gone on in my physical body, it's changed quite a lot, and I feel like that was like my homework up until the solstice. And so now I'm just on the other side. I'm feeling really good and really on my game and stuff like that. It's been pretty tough and brutal, and there's a lot of extremes going on with people, and you know, the horrible beauty of the universe, as Ram Dass says in that clip that I employ a lot of times. But I know a lot of people are going through hard stuff and that, and then just me, say, really being on my game for sessions and stuff, and meeting some amazing people. So what I'm going to do is call this Recalibration to a New Energetic Reality Part 9. And what I want to do is just offer some of the concepts I've offered over the years, but just do a refresher for people. And maybe there's a lot of you that have been here a long time and you know them. Maybe you've just, me doing a bit of a refresh now is a good reminder of things you might have just let drop off. And you know, with the expansion of the growth that sort of I've gone through and all the understandings that have come to appreciate in the last few months, let alone the last 12 months, I think it would just be really cool to offer some of the basics to help you guys have some tools that you can just employ and realize that, you know, solutions aren't usually rocket science. They might be something that we're gotten a bit complacent about and forgot about and didn't know that we could do. And so I think what I'll aim to do is just remind a couple of things and stuff in this time, say for you guys when you're on the other side of your solstice and stuff. But yeah, I just wanted to thank everyone that's had the courage to invest in me the last 6-12 months and stuff. It's been pretty rough, right? And I this time last year it's crazy, and didn't know what was going on and the threats that we're under. And I don't know if you've been around for the last 12 months and stuff, there's been a lot go on, and tried to offer the variables in a polite way and stuff, but not being too negative, and it's like holy crap sort of stuff, and realize that we're being up against a very formidable and skilled sort of opposition, so to speak. And I've used the mechanics of being a hen in a fox house and stuff, and just tried to do the right thing by people and stuff. And I didn't know what was going to happen. And this time last year, it was very foreboding for me. And so, as I always do, I try and invest in a lot of people, and say a lot of the missions and victories and stuff, I tried to get them out to a lot of people who I sort of felt I could trust and stuff, because I didn't know if I was going to survive. And I find it interesting for me that, so I've been a part of a lot of stuff, and not that I really look out there or what's going on, but I mean, this is how you as an individual, as me as a variable that's in potentially your reality, whether I'm a teacher or a healer or just a variable that you come across now and again. I just find it fascinating that there's, and the reason why I set that up as me being a variable, I'm offering what I'm doing because I'm very solution orientated, and once I get the context, the solutions are quite simple. And it's a bit like Yoda lifting the X-Wing out of the swamp when Luke didn't believe in it because of the size. But to me, it's all about what's the return of your investment of your energy. If you've got the awareness, why do you put a limit on yourself, right? So I've just operated in my own way, not being limited by my own beliefs and what is possible and stuff. And so just try, and going back to, you know, August last year, putting the information to Metatron. So I've got birds in a gutter above me, like having a bird bath. So I have birds in a bird bath above me that like to have a bath, and you know, you say if you get, oh, they're having a spa bath up party, not just a rave out the back in a big tree I've got. So sorry if the image isn't bad, I've tried to clear it and stuff. I'm getting rained on. So yeah, it's been pretty interesting, and in me, I just try to do the right thing by everyone all the time, and learning, say, stuff through the missions. I've always tried to impart the missions, the actual raw organic discovery recordings of being in the moment and stuff, and to me, I feel they're very precious, and I've invested in a lot of people by giving them to people, and the risk I felt was I wasn't maybe going to survive and get through this, but I'm here now and stuff, and as I say, invaded cockroach sort of stuff. So if you've been through a real rough 12 months and epic growth, but huge challenges, but you're still here, I hope if you've watched Galactic Special Forces Part 32. As I said, I might try and go over do a bit of an overview of the mechanics of what I've worked out is a very anchoring strategy on the 22D, that if you've been through a harsh sort of time, like I said, but you've been anchoring it and still here, as the birds agree. I really thank you for all you're doing that you probably don't know, and being pretty peerless in your reality. Like I used to talk about the peerless peers, being, you know, having integrity, being thorough, being the last resort for many people. I'm sure a lot of people probably seek you out and get your reassurance and clearings and understandings, because I know I'm not entry, guys, and I am humble, but I have to accept what it is and just offer, you know, truth and discovery and all the people and individuals and discoveries and missions and stuff that I've done over the years, and I accept where I'm at. And I think the one variable that I've got is that I'm not governed by what I'm known. I'm humble to what I don't know, but I can actually work with the unknown to use the variables that I employ to go and decode the unknown. And that's where I know I've interacted with people in the past and give them chances to be, you know, around me and stuff like that. And I know when people feed me false information, but I go with it to, you know, when you're discerning people and there's falsehood, you give them what they want easy, and it reveals a lot of truth. And if they think they've got you and stuff, like some of my allies around me just laugh because I can't be controlled, and there's a lot of annoyance by me being, you know, sovereign in that respect, and then I just flip it on everyone and stuff and just have a big laugh. And then there's a lot of the discreditation and all that sort of shit, but it is what it is. It's tip of the truth spear sort of stuff. All right. So as I said, I'm going to call this Recalibration to a New Energetic Reality Part 9. Not sure what I'll call it. It's a bit about the reality mechanics and mastering it and all that sort of stuff. But I feel like while I've got light, I hope it doesn't go dark soon. But I feel like it'd be a good time to just do a pause and a regroup, you know, and recalibrate to that to launch going forward and stuff. Because yeah, on many big scale energetic sort of mechanics, we've sort of got the strategic advantage now. It might not seem like it, and it's a bold call, but you know, I'm very, very, very privileged by operating with some very, very incredible beings that they deserve to be known and honoured for what they've contributed over the last sort of 12 months, but I have to leave them in the background. Not all of what I share originates from my perceptions, and I'm very happy to offer you where they come from and stuff, but it's more of a bit of a reporting sort of impartation sort of mechanics that I've done this last sort of 12 months, especially because of what's been going on. And yeah, I just wouldn't say anything unless I've got the backup for it. But as I was getting to before, it's a bit interesting because like we've done stuff and achieved stuff, and I don't know how much you look out there and stuff, but I don't feel like anyone's really perceiving what we've been doing. And in a way, we're very orphan. So as a, you know, the pattern recognition variables, if you're cross-referencing stuff, I don't know if there's a way to cross-reference what I'm offering and stuff. So there's a potential liability for you to accept what I offer. But ideally, that I've been around for a long time and you know me, and I'm pretty stable, and I'm the same. And I've actually employed a bit of a randomness, chaotic sort of energy impartation over the last 12 months deliberately to not be too referential. So yeah, I've used many mechanics over this last year to shake out a lot of the stuff, alright? But I think we're here in a new level with the structural superiority. So with that, I'm just going to get into the main body. I don't know how light it's going to be. It's the shortest day of the year down here, and it is a pretty beautiful day. I had the opportunity a couple of days ago to watch the sunset. I was thinking about putting up the video that I recorded of the shortest days of the sunset. I haven't done it so far, and I'm not sure what clips I'm going to include. I was thinking of an Ian R. Crean one, and what I might do is at the end offer a Jim Rohan clip that I offered before about relative to those who actually do the effort. I shared it a little while ago. It might be a good one to offer at the end as well, but we'll see. What I'm wanting to get into is just how precious the peak time of your awareness is. You know, we have 60, 70, 80, 90, 100 years or whatever, but out of that we might have 40 or 50 years of peak time if we're lucky, maybe only 5 or 10. And so getting to that peak awareness, it's very precious, and I'm all about potential and stuff. So I just want to show you some images relative to the potential and mechanics and stuff like that. And then what I want to do is offer some of the basics, like when you get upgrades and stuff, the vulnerabilities that are there and stuff, and just some of the things I've offered in the past that are really going to be potent with the details that I've worked out relative to the mechanics of things. So I'm just going to get into it. All right? I'm just going to show you the first image now. So this is a graph relative to our potential mechanics, say intuitive potential and stuff. And to me, all of humanity have an intuitive potential. And one of the reasons why I'm going to offer this a bit of a light topic now is at some point I may be looking to offer some pretty heavy topics, particularly about population control and stuff, because we're right in the middle of it now. And so you, no matter what you've got around you, we're all probably meant to have more allies and support and stuff, and we're probably very under the pump relative to resources and stuff, but we're here, right? We've gotten this awareness now. And this is just a metaphor of, you know, we might be just starting and we've got all this potential. I draw a line as a limit, but as I said, and the intro clip about those limits are just beliefs to be transcended as well, right? But just offer this, right? So the mechanics are that there's an investment of time and resources to achieve that awareness, right? So there's whole new levels and stuff. But all I'm offering is the time variable is very precious. It might take you a lot of time to discover concepts. You might have to go through experiences and stuff like that. And it's not a straight line, it's up and down and all that sort of stuff, right? But say you are very dedicated in your journey, you condense the time it takes in years or whatever. And say you invest in sessions with someone like me, that will be an avenue to accelerate your time in that. But just see the mechanics of, to gain awareness, there's a potential investment in time, right? And just see that to be here, you've invested a lot of time to get to level awareness and stuff, to be able to accept what I offer and all those sort of things. Even if you disagree or whatever, it's all cool. But I'll just move on, right? This is the unknown image that I've shown many times. But say if you're going into a new level, there's a huge unknown variable. So everything might be, you don't know what's going on, right? And then there might be variables that are going against you, which I think a lot of people are, you know, in a lot of fear of the unknown, of all the pushback and all that. But I would offer, like, why don't you take this perspective of all that I've offered? You don't need to fear it because you come into awareness. It's already been going on to you all your life. All you're getting now is that you realize this is what it's been all your life, right? So you can drop the fear of all of that. When you gain new awareness, like one of the expansions that people go through is they come to understandings, context, and then, you know, then you realize what's going on and you accept it, and then you move forward, right? And some of this will be offering mechanics that you, in my opinion, have helped me endure all that I've been through and stuff, and been an ally for me to get to this point, right? And they're not hard, it's just simple and discipline and employment all the time, right? But yeah, I would just offer that the unknown is a variable that we go up against all the time, and there's all these variables that we don't know. And so the emotion that you can attach to it is fear, right? So it's just a choice. So I'll move on. Down the bottom it's got discernment, volume, mechanics. So say if we're going from that way to that way, we can have maximum fear. The red is all fear. And the more that we go into the unknown, the more we trust, and the more we can disarm fear. So when you're new and raw, you come from a maximum fear state that you don't know what you don't know and all that. But as you say, invest in someone like me, you gain more understanding, but you might have fear because you feel inadequate and all that sort of crap, right? What I'm just inviting at some point, and there's the 3D, 5D mechanics, you get to this nexus point where it crosses all over, right? And this whole journey, it might be rough and all that, you might feel like you're getting nowhere in that, but then all of a sudden you put it all together. And you might have resistance and all that sort of stuff, but then you might just get that aha moment, that spark of that it all comes together. And then you realize in the 3D, 5D mechanics, you sort of realize that you are sort of able to endure it and master it, and then you can build upon that, right? And it might be tough and all that. We're sort of way showers for many in that, but this is all where the potential is. And then you get on a roll. Maybe you go for healing, maybe you learn healing, maybe you integrate nutrition and all this sort of stuff, maybe you change the foods you eat, maybe you let go of people that aren't beneficial to your life and stuff, and maybe you create opportunities for new people and all that sort of stuff, or maybe you invest a lot of research and embrace certain concepts and give them a chance and get beyond where most people are going, right? But all I'm just saying is there's this threshold of we go through all this and everything, we can control the emotional state that we're in, right? It's just all interesting. But isn't that a good mechanics of how we go through everything, you know? Every day we might go through every mechanics in this relative to everything that we explore and meet and find ourselves in, right? But the key is that's where your growth is, right? At some point you go from fear of exploration to relentless growth, right? And you wouldn't be here unless that's your truth, right? So I'm just going to move on. This is another example of that. So you might go invest a lot of time to get that point. It might take you a while to get going on the first ones, but see the parabolic curve that I'm talking about. So the red is like a threshold what we need to get through, 3D 5 sense and the fear, and ideally the amount of time that we invest. So I'm just really emphasizing how precious your peak awareness time is. And I might do long videos and stuff, but I'm aiming to parabolically help you grow. Right? And we go through all the emotions of that, you know. Maybe you're going into original territory where no one else has been, there's no one else to help validate what you're doing, which is what I'm sort of saying. But I'm not seeking validation, I'm rather, like I feel like I'm at the early shoots of where I'm going, right? I've invented a new healing modality and helped people get through a lot of stuff and learn a lot of stuff and recalibrating really quick, because to me, humanity under a lot of crunch. We've been through this thing for 60 years, and as I said, I want to probably offer some pretty dark topics, but it's the reality of I'm appreciating the bigger outer edges of the puzzle, like the multi-dimensional trillion years, 25,000 years, Ariani massacre sort of stuff with Asher, but it's time to also the micro of this era and that focus, right? And those of you who are pushing hard and stuff, I think like a lot of people are going to go through that threshold. You know, the population suppression and negative stuff done to people is to keep people under the red, right? Maybe you get a lot of resistance, there's uncertainty, maybe people you feel you could trust get hijacked and all that sort of stuff, right? But yeah, keep growing, guys, alright? Just appreciate all that. The other thing is you're probably going to have to get self-sufficient and trust yourself and not trust anyone. And you know, it's nice to get validation and verification from others, but you see them as codependencies and vulnerabilities. What if you just accept yourself? You get from this reliance on others to not needing others and just launch and not being defined by others at all, right? So yeah, keep growing, guys. So I've shown this many times. A lot of these are on my Instagram as well. But this is how our journey can be. And over time, like, you make growth and then you go through things and you might fall back and stuff like that. And you lose time, you get growth and fall back and keep making progress. One variable is that I've shown is about mastery of the moment, and all the green is like your potency. There's potentially all this resistance, right? But the thing is, as I've said in the past, if you're worried about the future, then you're limiting your future. If you're worrying about baggage in the past, then that can cap your potential in the moment. So there's all these variables all the time, but I would offer that if you master the moment and you get your peak energy, like the green that's able to burst through everything, what if you pull everything back to this moment, master it, and then plot your course in that mastery, rather than all the variables that are all technical and potentially limiting your energy? There's all sorts of stuff and variables and things that can go on, right, that you're not in control of and that absolutely have every relevance for this, but you can still be in the moment and navigate in your peak energy and plot through the future with that peak energy state, right? Say you're worrying about things and it can influence the potentials, like you might feel it's a risk rather than it's obvious, you know? So you might be a lot more conservative in your actions when you need to be brave and stuff like that. So you can make every decision at your peak moment and, you know, just be in it and then get to the next moment and get to your peak, right? The key is time is precious, right? Peak awareness, time is precious. So navigating at your peak is, you know, the ultimate ally of navigation, right? So this is the metaphor of the navigation of our journey in the 22D and all that mechanics, right? So there's all these variables, these red X's and stuff, and the players out there that potentially influence us. What I'm going to share in this ultimately is an ally to navigating all this sort of stuff, because in it, it is what it is, right? All these variables you may not be able to control, but you can control you through it, alright? What I'm going to show you is an image I've shown you in the past, because I feel a lot of people are going through a lot of upgrades and there's new rules and stuff like that, right? This one I haven't shared in a while, but I've shared it to many people in private sessions and interactions and stuff. This is a metaphor of our growth, alright? So the key is, you know, we all want to get upgrades and codes back and all that sort of stuff, right? One of the things I offered last year was working out that my codes were stolen and energy was stolen, and in that moment I realized that mechanics of that equation, I took everything back, I put it all back. We all are the authority of our energy, our body and our dimensional levels we exist on. We can exert our authority of ourselves no matter what goes on, right? In any moment, right? Let's say you get an upgrade and you go through growth and stuff like that. This is all about the vulnerability in those moments. You know, there's an integration. So say you go through sessions and you get upgraded. When you get your life force back and stuff, there's a potential that you're being deficient, for example, and you haven't been able to get all your technology going, but then you get your energy going. But there's a bit of a transition, right? And what I'm offering is that there's a potential vulnerability in those moments because you're unfamiliar, right? A lot of people are apprehensive about a lot of stuff, but the thing is, you just get over it. But these are the things that go on. You know, you can have a lot of influences going on during those integration periods, and then you have to get through it. But what I'm just going to offer in all of this is just, once you become aware of this, you know it, and then you can sense it. A lot of people, they don't even know themselves, they don't even feel themselves, they don't even know their energy level, and they don't even know they're deficient, and a lot of these practitioners out there are really messing people up, sort of thing, right? And people don't know all the angles that might be coming at them and stuff, and the forces in control are very masterful of all this, and they know it, and we get wiped and all that sort of stuff. So this is just the new rules in upgrades and stuff. There's a transition time to integrating, and you just have to sort of weather the potential targeting storm because you're a threat. You get used to this and you grow and stuff. I just really wanted to put this out there again to remind you guys, because there's so many gifts that they're offering us, and say we're recovering things and they're up for offer, and if you guys are doing the declaration and instigating the recovery process and stuff, then all of this might be going on and you're just not familiar to it. So there's a vulnerability of the naivety, alright? So I'm going to move on. These are just some of the issues that can come up, and I just wanted to touch on base, but you know, people might think of entities are like Ghostbusters and Slimer and stuff like that, but it might be just an energy inserting into a layer that influences us. Goes after our Kundalini or codes and messes with, disconnects us from our oversoul and all that sort of stuff, right? Separates us from Earth so we don't get that pure source connection to source. And I'll just move on. We can have our perception mechanics messed with. So this is the oversoul hack and stuff like that. So if you're good, you perceive everything how it is and stuff. The stuff in the orange is the perception mechanics and stuff. But say if there's a third party messes with your oversoul and hacks and puts depression in you or whatever, and disconnects you from pure source and harvests your energy and your codes, like the green and the blue are codes, then potentially whoever might be authentic in that might be reversed on you. So your perceptions are inaccurate relative to individuals out there and stuff. And I talk about the contrarian view. You can get out of it yourself. Like I said, do the declaration, call your stuff back, own it, and get through all this stuff, all the hacking of all the layers of our energy bodies and stuff, and then you'll see it all. A lot of people are actually living like this, they don't know it. And that's why it's been tough for you guys and stuff, because there's a lot of influence and violation going on and that, and just having to navigate it. But I would offer that falsehood and influences like this have a short shelf life, and if they do it, then there's a karmic cost. And if you guys initiate sort of sovereignty declaration, you know, and you don't have to read it all the time, you can just embody that energy and knowing how the effect feels. Like I've got a couple of the psychic defense videos, like references and sanctuary space and state. If you've got a reference state of you and your best, you can reanimate yourself. You also might need help and all this sort of stuff, and it might be hacking into your body and lowering your energy and all that, and it can be a bit of a complacency consequence world that I talk about. It's just really tough to reanimate. But I would say a lot of you guys have all gone through this in the past, and you're pretty badass in the reality and stuff, and coming out the other side of a lot with a lot of wisdom of experience. Okay, so I'll move on. So I've done an updated image here. So the blue is like your energy field of what you allow in and stuff, right? So one of the things I used to talk about was sucking in your energy field. Right? Like most people are open, but they don't even know it. That's why the sovereignty declaration is very important. And because from my perspective, by design, I've talked about the sovereignty thing in Pure Source Spiritual Assembly for Multiverse Resolution video that I did a while back. But from my perspective, we're all in an open book, and we're all probably amped up with not even a boundary sort of thing. So there's all these influences going on. And just for getting to the point's sake, there's neutral beings that are black, there's good guys that are green, perhaps your family and stuff, and then there's red players that can be haunted, influenced, or they're just invaders undercover and stuff. And so I would invite, just in this moment, you can suck your energy back, so you can be around people but not be affected by this stuff, right? So you can pull your aura and energy field right back in and compress it in on yourself so it's very tight, right? So this one is where you're open, and there's all these angles that might get in to hack you and stuff like that you don't know. And it's tough, right? It might sound like easier said than done, but you can just embrace these concepts and just say, no, I'm not going to let anything in, alright? The concepts of simple application might be a lot of time, and you know, then you go through all that doubt and all that sort of stuff. I'll just show you that image again, alright? So everything I say and stuff, you might go through this mechanics for every single thing, alright? You don't trust yourself and all that. Am I good enough? Am I clear enough? Am I being complacent and all that sort of stuff, right? This is just like muscle training. The more you do it, the better you get, and then you know it, alright? And the sensitivities might be a little, and then they go parabolic and very loud, alright? You can always just try and trust yourself first, that you know these mechanics and implement them, and it's just in, alright? Because what I'll show again, alright? I'll just move on. This is the 22D, 15D, 12D, 11.5D, and 3D, 5 cents sort of reality sort of stuff. What I know about most people is we're, by our nature, organic to this universe, pure source. We're superior than everything else. We've never known this. And they've never wanted us to know this because we are superior to them. They need us deficient of them to have a superiority that we default to, alright? So I'm just inviting that if you go back to the other image and you by default feel you're less and lack and doubt and all that sort of stuff, then they're all avenues for all this stuff to get in. They're all valid to master, and you don't know if you're mastering them until you go through a lot of experience. But ideally I'm just trying to shortcut time and get to the peak awareness time and anchoring this, alright? So if you appreciate all that, we're all probably masters of doubt and uncertainty about ourselves and feel lack and get muddled up on humbleness and lack and stuff like that. But what if you actually accept yourself? You're the authority over everything. You're the peak of everything. You're better than everything, right? And I'll just go back to that other image. So if you've never known you're an open book, then you're vulnerable to all that other stuff. But what if you just appreciate that from a mechanic point of view, going up to 22D, I'm going to anchor my energy field and pull it back in and not let variables in, right? So, you know, like I do public videos and I've done a lot of public stuff live in the past, say with people in the past, and that I've been out there and perhaps I make it look easy doing the public stuff, right? But say, just for instance, you know, you imagine you're a parent, and just had this instance the other day of I was having an interaction where I went for a certain thing for me and talking this, what happens when people talk about their stuff, everything comes through, right? And I'm just like, that's why I retreat and I'm very passive and I just wait for my sessions and stuff, and I have this barrier with not letting people in unless you commit financially, alright? Because there's a lot of this stuff that can go on before that, alright? It shakes a lot of people out. And the reason why I ask for money up front is I used to, early on when I got into healing and stuff, I would do sessions and let people pay at the end. But there's a lot of people out there that are like healing addicts and they don't have the cash. And you do what you do and then they make all excuses for not paying and stuff, and then you're chasing them up. And it's very messy, alright? So for me, and this is for you guys out there that are healers, like I ask for money up front before I engage. I allow people go through their rite of passage to commit and stuff. So just appreciate this as a way for me to filter out all the mechanics, because a lot of people are going through a lot of stuff and they require a lot of commitment. Like say when I do my infinites these days, what goes on is, because the declaration is very long, sometimes I start at 9, 10, 11 o'clock at night and I go through to 7, 8, 9, 10 in the morning. Might go 8, 10 hours, alright? So in order for me to do that, I need to set up the day before and stay up late and get myself acclimatized at the time. And then I'll need to recoup and get back to a normal time. So it might be 3 days work for me to do one session, and I love it. I love pushing myself that hard. Everyone matters at the moment, all right? And those of you that come through, it's very precious, and to interact in that very peak time where people are committed to their exploration of their unknown and their potential with me, and it's like a huge honor for me to hang out with some amazing people, right? And very committed to their growth. So if you imagine, I've dealt with people that have kids and they've got kids with exes and stuff, and those exes are avenues to get in and stuff like that. It's very hard to control that. That's why a lot of us, we don't have kids and all that sort of stuff, but you just got to see what variables you can control. And you know, when you're dealing with those things, it's very tough. But just imagine if getting onto the public side of things, all right? Doing public shows and stuff, whether it's YouTube, BitChute, Odyssey, Instagram, Facebook. To me, doing YouTube and the way I do it, I'm not live and in the face of people, and I don't have a connection to a lot of you guys, right? Let's say I would offer Facebook and Instagram, for instance, are even more open because it's a two-way thing, and then if you open yourself up, then you don't know what's coming through. So for me, when people start going public and that, the rules change, right? So it's all very technical from my perspective, but I would just offer that there's all these variables, and if you understand them, then you can navigate no matter what. But most people don't know about this stuff, and just need to cover all the angles. So say if I'm doing Galactic Special Forces with the people I deal with and stuff, it's very tip of the truth spear of all the potential in the universe, and it's really, I have to have my bases covered in that. And this is like the 15 years of stuff that I've talked about, because going back to when I was dealing with Andrew and stuff, and I finished at 2020, for 10 years I allowed people access to me, right? People that came, I invested in them, and what I realized is I was just giving them relief, right? And people weren't integrating the healing and stuff. So my structure of my sessions and the way I operate is very evolved for over that whole period, to be able to be ready for the people that I just let that come through that I need to be on my game for and stuff. So for me, I was very reluctant to commit to the healer and stuff because of all this stuff, but now I'm here, and all this and what we've discovered in the last, say, 12 months, and particularly the last 3 or 4 months, is, like I said, the parabolic thing, okay? Yeah, just don't think too much about it. Just realize that you can determine what you allow in. You're the authority over you, all right? And you can control everything, all right? And just discern each angle and stuff like that. You know, if someone comes into your world, you can't control their variables and all that sort of stuff. So you just got to be really vigilant and discerning on all the angles that are around you and stuff like that. That's where we go into a hermit mode. We might go isolated and get our sanctuary space and sanctuary state going. Then you go out, you realize it's not you, right? These are all challenging things to understand, how you can get hacked in the body and all that sort of stuff, and I've done my best to impart a lot of that stuff over the years. As I said, you know, you might be in fear or uncertain about it and all that sort of stuff, right? But I'll just go back to the other image. You know, there's all sorts of fear and uncertainty of information. You might go into lack and all that, but I would offer, you've been mastering it your whole life and lifetimes, and you're here, and you got all this potential. And just, instead of feeling inferior to all this stuff, feel armored up with the truth of what is going on when no one else really knows this stuff, right? So we'll just move on. So this is one of the images I offered about the journey and stuff, and we might go ups and downs, and you know, me, I'm the line in the middle and the discernment and stuff, and it's all cool to go through things and stuff. You know, just realize, like I said, experience is the key to wisdom, and I'm going to get a lot more into that one and stuff in the future. The journey is interesting, right? We have ups and downs. We might get polarized against people and get aha moments of things going on and stuff, right? And I'll just offer a second image relative to this. So this is how we think, and we think it's all fair and stuff like that, but I'll show you how crazy it is, alright? There's all these variables that we have never known about that are actually doing all this shit that's messing us up and that, alright? And then it flips people, you know, you can get hacked into your oversoul and all this sort of stuff to derail you and see allies wrong and all that sort of stuff, alright? So I'm just going to move on to another image, because I'll get into these in a bit more detail in the future, alright? But all I'm just offering is all this stuff goes on that we've never known about, but now we know it, alright? So it all comes back to your potential and your time, right? And there's all this stuff going on to prevent that potential being realized, okay? So then it comes to this mechanics, right? There's all sorts of reasons to go through fear and uncertainty and stuff. But at the end of the day, is what is your peak potential? You go through all these emotions, you get to that threshold and launch, and there'll be no stopping you. And then we'll realize how funny are we that we gave all this crap so much power, and we operated at such a minuscule level of our potential, right? And then as I shared and talked about this in Galactic Special Forces 32, we've never known what we've been up against, and we're still here. And then there's all these big collectives and anti-gods that we've been going after, that have been going at us, right? And all the people around us that we care about, right? So all this structure, it's vast, and I'll get into it a bit more. It's in that Galactic Special Forces 32. So if I go back to that circle image, we're just trying to navigate that. We've never known all that stuff has been going at us and stuff, right? And the vulnerable around us can get influenced, okay? But at the end of the day, alright, you've still gotten here. We've all gotten here to this point of this awareness. And in spite of the craziness, we're probably being amped up to a whole new level, right? Because this is what we've been doing. Wherever we are in the world, we're actually defending and guarding Earth, right? Without even knowing it. And you've been experiencing all the doubt and uncertainty and stuff, and not finding any reference of who you are, searching for those and stuff. So you've been quite isolated in that, but operating with integrity and all this sort of stuff. This is in Galactic Special Forces 32 and 33. 32 I talk all about this, because it worked out this is the strategy that we've been doing, right? So going back to all that doubt and all that stuff, just instead of measuring yourself with doubt and uncertainty and all that, right, just realize how magnificent you are and how precious you are to Earth and pure source, and how many allies we truly have that we've never known, right? But just see this as an incredible challenge, the ultimate challenge maybe. And in the last few months we've really anchored all this stuff, and everything is on edge and it feels like clutch, but we're badass and epic, and you are too, right? So I just wanted to give you some mechanics of how to endure this and see how simple and straight it is. Done the emotional mastery series and stuff like that, alright? As I share the other image. Because what it comes down to is your peak time, alright? Do you want to be, say if the green is your potency, that green line, do you want to be minuscule and doubting yourself and all that? Or do you want to be epic, beyond anything that can contain you self, alright, that you've always been? That you've just gone through a journey of all this emotional stuff and trying to find peers and all that, and probably being derailed and targeted and then weaponized. All sorts of stuff. But I would offer right now, after this solstice, perhaps you're going to really put it all together and maybe take it to a level that no one has ever seen or experienced before, right? So I thank you for being here. Thank you for allowing me to be a part of a journey. I hope this mechanics helps you be as epic and badass as you are. And just going back to that other image, if you compress your energy and stuff, if you're going through a lot of emotional uncertainty, maybe it's not yours, maybe it's some of these that you've allowed in, right? So why don't you just try it? Why don't you just pull yourself back, anchor yourself, and then go into it in your peak mode. Each breath, each interaction. I would offer it was going to be a lot easier than what you thought. Yeah. So again, thank you for being here. Thank you for allowing me to be a part of your journey. I hope you get a lot from this. It's not aimed to be too heavy in that. And as I said, I've probably got some pretty heavy topics I might look to get into, but my aim is on offering them is to actually armor you up with the truth of how epic it is and what we've been up against. There's an effort to cull the population and probably starve us and all that sort of stuff, but just instead of being in fear of that, think of how terrified of us they are in our peak and our intuitive potential, seeing through it all and anchoring it, and how irrelevant they are. Right? So I hope you get a lot from this. As I said, I'm probably going to offer the Jim Rohn clip again. There's something very cool about that, about the actual people that actually employ it. You know, he talks about a small percentage, but I think it'll be very rich and beneficial again, right, on this side. So thank you for being here. Thank you for all you've had to endure and put up with. And until next time, Andre Hodge, out.
Old Testament says a unique scenario unfolded according to the law, and that was they worked 9 years, and the 10th year was a sabbatical. The 10th year, work 9, take the 10th year, and not just to relax, not just to replenish, not maybe just to get physically in shape. Change of pace, we call it in the modern society, but not just for that. I'm sure that in ancient days that sabbatical was to go over the last 9 years, what went right and what went wrong, and what worked well and what didn't work well. And how did you grow, and how did you learn, and how did you change, and what have you got now after 9 years that you didn't have at the beginning of the 9 years? See, that's so valuable, a sabbatical, some time. There's also something to be said for solitude when you reflect. Sometimes you can reflect with somebody. Husband and wife reflect on the past year, right? Parents reflect with their children on the past year. How did we do it, and how didn't we do it, and how could we improve? Colleagues can reflect with each other. But now here's one of the most important. You got to learn to reflect with yourself. There's something to be said for solitude. There's something to be said for taking those occasions to shut out the world and shut out everything else for a while. I've got a motorhome. That's how I do it. With my motorcycle on the back. And I head for the mountains and ride the Jeep trails, where there's very few human beings on the Jeep trails, or out in the desert somewhere. It's called my time to get away. When you live a very public life, you treasure solitude. A chance to reflect, go back over my life, go back over my skills, go back over my experiences. Alone. There are some things you need to do alone. Ponder, think, wonder, read, study, absorb, soak in. See if you can't become better this year than you were last year, better the next 9 than you were the first 9. Solitude. There's even a more modern advice that says, go to the closet for time of meditation, time of prayer. Go to the closet. Closet meaning what? Away. And there's even a graphic description of the away. It said, enter into your closet and what? Got some students here, I'm sure. What? Close the door. For what? Just to shut out everything. Life is experience, 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 and touching and seeing and looking and doing and acting and disciplines and all the stuff. But sometimes, this is where this reflecting is so important, to shut the door. To shut the door and wonder. Prayer, contemplation, thinking, and let things move in to your consciousness and awareness that no other way can it be done. Right? Flying down the freeway, I'm telling you, it's difficult to get through. So many things to do, it's difficult to get through. But times of solitude, times to reflect. So this is so valuable, learn to reflect. Now here's why it's important to reflect. To make the past more valuable to serve you for the future. Here's what's really powerful, learning to gather up the past and invest it in the future. Gather up today and invest it in tomorrow. Gather up this week and invest it in the next week. Gather up this year and invest it in the next year. See, that's so powerful, rather than just hanging on one more year, hanging in there, seeing what's going to happen. Learn, study. This is part of the personal development quest, becoming better than you are, more valuable than you are, not just in terms of economics, in terms of motherhood, in terms of fatherhood, in terms of being a better brother, a better colleague, making a better contribution to the family, to society, to the community, to the church, to the office, to the commitment, to the partnership. Doesn't matter what it is that has value. Work on yourself, then you bring more value to the partnership, to the marriage, to the franchise, to the corporation, to the enterprise, to the community, to the nation. Self-development, personal development. The best contribution you can make to someone else is self-development, not self-sacrifice. Self-sacrifice only earns contempt. Self-development earns respect. Pity the mother who says, I'm just going to give up my life for my children. Self-sacrifice is not noble. Self-investment is noble from self-development. If I work on myself and become more valuable, think of what that'll do for our friendship. I used to use the old expression, you take care of me and I'll take care of you. I found out how shallow and short-ended that was. And I changed it to read like this, I'll take care of me for you, if you will please take care of you for me. And this is part of it, the personal development, that we work harder on ourselves than we do on our job. Now we bring that to the friendship. Now we bring that to the marriage. Now we bring that to the family relationship as a father, as a mother. And we develop the strength and we develop the power. That's key. And it takes, I think, this scenario of disciplines, these abilities, to acquire those gifts and those skills, that value, so that we bring more. Now, we bring more to the next week. We bring more to the next month. We bring more to the next year. If you follow this absorb, respond, and reflect. I said to my father, when he was about to turn 76, his 76th birthday, I said, dear father of mine, can you imagine what it's going to be like to gather up the last 75 years of your life and invest them in your 76th year? What a difference of philosophy, rather than just hanging on one more year. Gather up 75 and invest them in the next one. Gather up the last 6 years and invest it in the next year. See, that's so powerful in communication, which we're going to study soon. So powerful. So consider this. 1, the ability to absorb. 2, the ability to respond. 3, the ability to reflect. Here's number 4, develop the ability to act. Take action. Not hasty if it isn't required, but don't lose much time. Here's the time to act. When the idea is hot and the emotion is strong. That's the time to act. You say, Mr. Rohn, I'd like to have a library like yours. See, if you feel strong about that, what you got to do is get the first book and then get the second book. Before the feeling passes and before the idea gets dim, action pronto, action immediate, action as soon as possible. Because if you don't, here's what happens. We call it the law of diminishing intent. We intend to when the idea strikes us. We intend to when the emotion is high. But now if you don't translate that into action fairly soon, now the intent starts to diminish. And a month from now it's cold. A year from now, can't be found. So act. Set up a discipline when the emotions are high and the idea is strong and clear and powerful. That's the time to set up the discipline. Somebody talks about good health and you're stirred. Says, right, I need to get a book on nutrition. Get the book before the idea passes and before the emotion gets cold. Go for the book. Start the library. Start the process. Fall on the floor. Do some push-ups. Action. Got to take action. Otherwise, the wisdom is wasted. Otherwise, the emotion soon passes. Unless you put it into a disciplined activity. Capture it. Disciplines is called how to capture the emotion and how to capture the wisdom and translate it into equity. Disciplines. Now here's what's important about disciplines. All disciplines affect each other. In fact, here's a good philosophical phrase. Everything affects everything else. Nothing stands alone. Don't be naive in saying, well, this doesn't matter. I'm telling you, everything matters. There are some things that matter more than others, but there isn't anything that doesn't matter. We all pity the man who says, well, this is the only place I let down. Not true. Key to take home. Every letdown affects the rest of your performance. Every letdown affects the rest. This is part of the educational process on personal development. If you don't take the walk around the block, you probably won't do the apple a day. If you don't do the apple a day, you probably won't start building your library. If you don't build your library, you probably won't keep a journal, and you won't take pictures, and then you won't do this, you won't do wise things with your money, won't do wise things with your time, won't do wise things with your possibilities and relationships, and the first thing you know, 6 years of that accumulated, and we say you have messed up. So the whole key to reversing that process now is to start picking up these disciplines. Now here's the positive side. Every new discipline affects the rest of your disciplines. Every new one affects the rest. That's why action is so important. The least action, the smallest action. Take it. Because when you start accomplishing and the value starts to return from that one action, it'll inspire you to do the next one and the next one and the next one. You start walking around the block, it'll inspire you to get an apple. Get an apple, it'll inspire you to get a book. Get a book, it'll inspire you to get a journal. Get a journal, it'll inspire you to grow, develop some skills. All disciplines affect each other. Every lack affects the rest. Every new affects the rest. The key is to diminish the lack and set up the new. And you've started a whole new life process. Key. Also, one more thought on discipline. Here's the greatest value of discipline. Self-worth. Self-esteem. People are teaching self-esteem these days, but they don't connect it to disciplines. The least lack of discipline, and it starts to erode our psyche. One of the greatest temptations is to just ease up a little bit, right? The slightest lack of doing your best starts to erode the psyche. Instead of doing your best, doing just a little less than your best. Sure enough, you say, well, it's just going to affect my sales. No, it's going to affect your consciousness. It's going to affect your philosophy. Now you've begun in the slightest way to affect your own philosophy. Here's the problem with the least neglect. Neglect starts as an infection. And if you don't take care of it, it becomes a disease. And one neglect leads to another. And the worst of all, when neglect starts, it diminishes our self-worth, our self-confidence, our self-value. You say, well, how can I get back my self-respect? I'm telling you, you don't have to go to 29 classes. All you have to do is start the smallest discipline that now corresponds to your own philosophy, like I should, and I could, and I will. No longer will I let neglect stack up on me so that I will have the sorry scenario 6 years from now, giving some excuse instead of celebrating my progress. That's the key to discipline. Okay? Let's get kids involved in the least of disciplines. One more, and then one more, and then another one, and then another one, and then some more. And the first thing you know, you're starting to weave the tapestry of a disciplined life into which you can pour more wisdom and more attitude and more strong feeling, more faith and more courage. Now you've got something, a vessel in which to put it, and now the equities start to flow. And the early return, I'm telling you, if you'll start this process, the early return will have you so excited, you'll commit yourself to this strategy for the rest of your life. You'll never go back to the old ways. Join a new crowd, join a new group. The disciplines to do it, take action. I recommended the last time I was here the little book, Richest Man in Babylon, and I said I've lectured now to over 3 million people in the last 33 years, and I've recommended this little book to almost all of them, I think. Guess how many have actually gone and got this little book? Answer, very few. My best guess is 10%. Such an easy thing to do. In that last seminar, right, I suggested this little book, number one, is easy to find. Number two, it's easy to buy. The most you can pay for it, $6, $7, $8. You can borrow that from your kids. And number three, it's easy to read. It's in story form. That's why I use it for teenagers, teaching them how to be rich by 40, 35 if you're extra bright, much sooner if you find a unique opportunity. But if it's easy to find and easy to buy, and if it's easy to read, why wouldn't everybody go get it? We don't know. What do you know? You don't know. I don't know. Nobody knows. Here's how profound it is. Some do and some don't. Now here's the numbers. About 10% do. 90% don't or won't. And we don't know the mystery of that. And I'm telling you, 10 years from now, those numbers will still be the same. 10% will, 90% won't. The numbers don't change. Only the faces change. You're looking at one of the faces. I used to belong to the 90% who couldn't be bothered even if it was easy. Guess how many people have a library card? Wisdom of the world available. Transform your life in any value amount you want. By the way, how much is a library card in Texas? Free. Here's what free is. Easy. I mean, it can't be any easier than free. Somebody says, well, would you bring it by? Well, no. At least you got to go get it. No. Wisdom of the world available. Transform your life spiritually, socially, personally, economically, and every other way. Teach you how to be rich and powerful and sophisticated and healthy, influential. How many people have a library card? Answer, 3%. 95, 97% couldn't be bothered. Guy specializes in happy hour, but he doesn't have a card. And now readily and quickly blames the government and blames his company and blames policy and blames the pay scale. When if he only knew, if he joined the 3%, here's my advice to you today. Walk away from the 97%. Don't talk like they talk. Don't act like they act. Don't go where they go. Don't specialize in what they specialize in. Throw away the blame list they cling to. Start you a new life. You say, well, is it as simple as getting a library card and join the 3%? And the answer is, of course. Of course. That's how easy this stuff is. This is so easy. It's so simple. It's not complex. You don't need a 2,000-year-old guru. You don't need multi-track affirmations. I'm telling you, don't. Affirmation without discipline is the beginning of delusion. Key. Don't let somebody sweep you into some contrary way to nature itself says, unless you labor. The miracle of the seed and the soil and the seasons and God and all the other stuff that's available, sunshine and rain, that's not available to you by affirmation. It is only available to you by labor. So labor well. Okay. Learn well. Discipline yourself well. And you can have all the treasures you want. This stuff's easy and simple. It's not ocean waves and seagulls. You don't have to move to Sedona where all the force fields come together in Arizona. Let's teach our kids the simple ways to transform their health, number one. Their economics, number two. Their ability to communicate, number three. Their life and treasure and lifestyle, number four. Spirituality, number five. And the list goes on and on. Let's not leave out any of the least of disciplines that encourage us to do the next one, to do the next one, to do the next one. First thing you know, this whole scenario for you is spinning up instead of out of control on the negative side. This is all you got to do. It's as simple as this. It's as simple as a start, committing yourself to life change. And once you start down this road, I promise you, you'll join the 10% and the 3%.
So why did I need to spend the time with these people? Alberto, by the way, everything I'm telling you I shared with Alberto Villaldo, and he confirms that everything that they told me is exactly what they told him when he first started talking with them in the 1960s. Apart from a bit of the vocabulary change because of the contact they've had, but to all intents and purposes, the stories that they tell are exactly the same. The reason they came out of the mountains in the 1960s was because they had counted off 25 generations. Because they believed that their mission was to stay hidden from the world for 25 generations. And on the birth of the 26th generation, they came down to the lower world to share their insights. Their insight primarily is that the world is about to go through enormous changes. But we have a role to play. And they want to make sure that everybody, as much as possible, understands that we have to participate in this process. Because they said, you know, even though they didn't know any of this because they've been tucked away for 25 generations, they said the way that humanity is living on the earth today is not sustainable. I think we'd all agree with that. So something has to change, but we have to participate in that process. So they made the observation, they said, first of all, we have to literally participate as though the existing paradigm was going to continue. And the only way in which we can bring about change is literally getting physically involved and doing as much as we possibly can in whatever way we can to help bring about those changes. But they said that of itself is not enough. Because the other thing that we have to do is we have to visualize. We have to visualize. They're very definite here. This is not meditate, it's visualize. It's literally create the quiet space and visualize the type of future that you would like to see. And it doesn't have to be the same vision all the time. You could just be visualizing something for yourself, something for your family, something for your community, for your country, for the world, for the universe, whatever. A different visualization. But they say it's very important that we don't get an existential attachment to a particular visualization. Because if we did so, we might actually limit the outcome. Because, you know, we are limited in terms of our perception in this limited realm. So having too much of an attachment may actually limit the ultimate opportunity. And what they make the observation is that if we do both, if we make the time to sit down and visualize the type of change that we'd like to see, not the way in which it's going to come about, just the visualization of the ultimate goal, as far as we can possibly take it, what we will find is that things happen in our physical, empirical, material lives which actually help us to bring about those changes. And they said that this would actually be accelerated. That was June 2010 when I was with them. And they said that this process would absolutely accelerate exponentially with effect from November 2011. And they said, but Ian, it doesn't mean to say you can't start. You can practice. And they said, if you practice, what you will find is that from November 2011, things speed up. And so I said, okay, so what is it that's going to happen in November 2011? And what they said, and Alberto absolutely confirms that this is unadulterated, it's unchanged from what he heard from them 50 years ago. What is going to kick in is this massive solar activity. Now, Alberto says he actually wasn't able to corroborate this until 1972, when he got information from NASA that there was indeed some massive solar activity expected between November 2011 and May of 2013. And then just after I came back from Peru, I read this from an old edition of New Scientist. And it said, solar activity is known to influence human consciousness. Solar flares affect the central nervous system, the stomach lining, all brain activity, including equilibrium, along with human behavior and all psychophysiological, mental, emotional, and physical response. I've got to draw a breath for the next bit. Solar flares can cause us to be nervous, anxious, worried, jittery, dizzy, shaky, irritable, lethargic, exhausted, forgetful, have heart palpitations, feel nauseous and queasy, and last but not least, to have prolonged head pressure and headaches. Sound familiar? Well, after I came back from Peru, and after I read this, I vowed that I would not put another pharmaceutical in my body. Because the pharmaceuticals, remember the placebo group? The pharmaceuticals are what shuts down the capability of the body to effectively regenerate, to maximize the opportunities of healing. This is also from New Scientist. This is what's happening right now. In fact, if you look at, there's actually a website that shows the solar activity. If you just Google solar activity, daily solar activity, you'll see the website that says whether or not the strong activity, weaker activity. You can have a look for yourselves here. Well, here's a guy, another scientist, whose work was sequestered. This is a guy called Dr. Michael Persinger, and he developed what became known as the Karen helmet, actually after his colleague that developed it. And the Karen helmet has electromagnets around the front temporal lobes. And what Persinger was trying to stimulate was the non-material experience through the stimulation process of electromagnetic fields, small, very weak electromagnetic fields around the front temporal lobes. So this is very similar to sort of the breathwork type thing I was talking about. But he wanted volunteers, and initially he had all these aging hippies coming up from California who thought it'd be a damn sight cheaper than LSD. But he didn't want the hippies, he wanted people who denied the non-material experience. And the most extreme case was a lady by the name of Dr. Susan Blackmore. Now, Dr. Susan Blackmore is a British psychologist who's absolutely locked into the physical empirical material realm. There is nothing that ever happens that can't be explained. Except that when she wore the helmet, to this day, she refuses to discuss her experiences. Now, that speaks volumes. You know, everything I've been talking about today, the vaccines, the pharmaceuticals, kicking off with the drugs like Ritalin, the antidepressants, the SSRIs, the GM contaminated foods, the fluoride in the water, the aspartame in the drinks aimed at children. Everything here is about shutting down the right brain. And this was epitomized. I gave a talk at the Theosophical Society in Cardiff in the UK. Now, it was open to all comers. It wasn't just members of the Theosophical Society. And halfway through this part of the presentation, there was a guy who stood up at the back, and he said, Ian, he said, look, he said, why can't we just focus on the geopolitical? He said, I love all the work you do on the geopolitical, but why do you have to go into all this spiritual shit? And I said, look, you know, with all due respect, I said, there's a number of people here who actually probably can relate to what I'm talking about. So, you know, maybe you just bear with us, and, you know, I'll have a chat with you afterwards. Anyway, when I got to the point where I was saying that all of these things, like, you know, the pharmaceuticals, the vaccines, the food, the water, he stood up and he said, Ian, I've got to apologize. He said, I've been on antidepressants for the last 12 years. And he said, I've been trying to wean myself off them. And he said, and I realized that's what's shutting down my opportunity to experience everything you're talking about here. Now, that in itself, in my opinion, was a major step for the guy. I'm going back to Cardiff early next year, and I hope this guy comes along. I want to see whether he's managed to extricate himself completely. You know, we have a tremendous opportunity to bring about the changes, and even in the quantum realms, my stepdaughter is a quantum physicist, and she absolutely relates to everything I'm talking about, but from a very different angle. This is about a guy called Amit Goswami, and he's a quantum physicist. He's known as the quantum activist, because he shares a similar view from his Buddhist background, that if we visualize, the more we visualize, the more we can help to create the future. You know, one of the things that was fascinating for me about Targ and Puthoff's work, was that their remote viewers could not see beyond December 21st, 2012. And when I shared this observation with the Quero, they laughed and said, well, of course not, because it's still being written. Now, this was 2010. And they said, and we are writing it. It's my opinion that what they're trying to do is to shut down the process from even starting. Because once we have actually activated it, it's like once the switch goes on, there's no turning it back. Because it's like once one card falls, all the rest start to fall very soon afterwards. This is Einstein. He said, the intuitive mind is a sacred gift, and the rational mind is a faithful servant. We have created a society that honours the servant and has forgotten the gift. We will not solve the problems of the world from the same level of thinking we were at when we created them. More than anything else, this new century, and he was talking about the 20th century, this new century demands new thinking. We must change our materially based analyses of the world around us to include broader, more multi-dimensional perspectives. Einstein was a mystic. We're all mystics. It's been shut down. The capability, the capacity has been shut down, deliberately shut down. I don't necessarily understand why, but those who think they're the rightful rulers of this planet do not have access to this capability. And they are running very, very scared that once we access it en masse, then basically their game is over. Now, listen, the Quero make it very clear that we have to behave as though none of this is based in any kind of reality. We shouldn't have an attachment to this happening. We've got to focus on bringing about the changes that we want to see in the physical empirical material realm. And if we do that and we visualize, then the rest will unfold naturally. Rudolf Steiner made this observation. He said, he who would create the new must be able to endure the passing of the old in full tranquility. This is why I said this morning, you know, when I was talking about the stuff about having the food and the water and doing the stuff with any assets you got, the gold, it's so that you can free yourself. You don't have to worry about the foraging. You can free yourself to focus on the things that really matter. One of the positions that it's probably a good place to be right now is if you have nothing, you are in great shape. Because you have no attachment to anything. And I know it's a sort of, it's a regurgitation of even more ancient wisdom, but as somebody once said, it is easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than for the rich man to enter the kingdom of heaven. This is simply a reference to attachment. There's nothing wrong in having accoutrements. It only becomes a problem if there's an attachment to them. So one can argue that if you have nothing, you are relieved of that burden. If you have assets, there's nothing wrong in having them, there's nothing wrong in protecting them. But don't be too attached to them. Whilst we need them, great. But maybe we're coming to a time when we don't need them. I think this is a truly exciting period. It's a massively exciting period. And how did I find Alberto Villoldo initially? Because I was becoming aware that, you know, we were going through an evolutionary process, and I came up with the term homo luminous. And I thought, well, that's a good term. Wonder if anybody's ever thought of that. Googled it, Alberto Villoldo, 20 years ago. Homo luminous? It's not the Illuminati. Homo luminous. It's access. It's the capacity to access the full range of our capability and capacity. You know, where the physical empirical material is secondary to everything else that we're experiencing. So this is really a truly remarkable opportunity, you know, and I've got to say that I wouldn't have missed this for the world, but I'm damned if I want to do it again, so let's get it right.
sun is gonna keep on shining. Right away on the horizon. My love for you will always keep on rising. Everything's gonna be alright tonight. Oh yeah, my love for you is gonna keep on rising. The sun's gonna keep on shining. Bright days on the horizon. My love for you will keep on rising. Everything's gonna be alright. The sun's gonna keep on shining. Bright days on the horizon. My love for you will keep on rising. Everything's gonna be
We can remember swimming in December, heading for the city lights. 975, sharing each other nearer than farther. Scent of lemon drips from your eyes. We are the people that rule the world, fostering in every boy and girl, all rejoicing in the world. Take me now. We can drive a little adventure, love.
John Lilly once put it this way: there are no limits at all to the human mind whatsoever, except those we impose on ourselves because of our beliefs. And those limits are also beliefs to be transcended. And that's a view that suggests that the possibilities of human transformation are virtually infinite. And we have no way of knowing the outer horizon of what it means to be human.
And really, to understand all this, everything, you have to go very, very deep into a study of history, consciousness, neurophysiology, everything. You have to be the supreme eclectic type of leaning, and you really have to be wanting to know who you are and what everything's about.
And the thing that you'll find when you go to sacred sites, if you're very humble about it, is that you are on a personal journey, and the sacred site will respond to you in a way that is appropriate only to you. The information is always what you are searching for. And it's the intent you give that energy that defines whether it is used for right action or not. And it is inside these sacred spaces that you will be reminded that you are a god, that you are a bright star.
So what you're trying to do is move through the course without ricocheting off walls or creating karma. You're trying to slide through things smoothly. How do you do that? It's called flowing. There's a technique that you can do that will allow you to touch some part of your inner being that has more knowledge than your conscious state does.